So I wanted to show the videos of this used mobile home that I was just talking about to you guys, where the investor or student made just is going to be making a ton of money. And one thing that popped into my head was, sometimes people are like, well, what if someone doesn't pay, or what if someone is a bad tenant? That happens, right? But when you structure your deals correctly, you'll always have control. So typically, when we do a slow flip or a rent to own deal, whatever you want to word it, um, they have to pay a substantial amount of down payment. And so they don't want to have risk of losing that down payment. Now, that down payment typically goes towards the purchase price of the asset. But what has happened to me is things come up, right? People are people. And so if the tenant buyer defaults, then we just go ahead and do the same thing with another buyer and collect another non-refundable down payment, which basically makes the return even better for the investor who purchased the property. And so this is how you learn to always control your money. And this is how I call it leading with the carrot, not the stick, right? I always want to give my tenant buyers the benefit of the doubt. I want to help support them in ownership. I want them to win, right? But if things are going shaky, you want to make sure that you're always in profit, that you're always making money, and that you always have a backup plan. This is some of the stuff that people don't think about, and they jump into investing, lose money, have a bad taste in their mouth, and then go back to doing what they've always done. You do not have to do that. So let me show you the pictures on here of this simple deal, simple deal. And so we talked about how we turned a $34,000 investment into over $250,000 over time. And it's just on a super basic mobile home, right? And if someone was to go and buy a brand new mobile home, they're really expensive nowadays, right? And so I did this with a cheap used mobile home, basic stuff, because a lot of times these tenant buyers are coming in and doing a lot of the work themselves, remember? And so we just make it livable. And I'm doing this to help uh, investors get started in their first couple of deals, to help them make great returns. But what's in it for me? Well, I'm rehabbing this park and I make lot rent. So after the tenant pays, I take a little lot rent. I'm filling my park, and my investors are getting paid who are getting the turnkey property. So in this scenario, everyone is making money, and I love the win-win situations. And so just super basic property that, it's not sexy. This is not sexy money. This isn't sexy real estate, but it gets the job done and people are happy, right? Everyone needs living. And so sometimes people ask me, Umair, why do you play in this space when you live in an area where there's $1 million properties? Like, why did you decide to play in areas like this? And my answer is always this. When I got into this business, I was looking to create income that me, my wife, and my baby girl can live off of, because I'm just against working a full-time job. And so the only way I could do that was to go into different cash flow markets to that make revenue, right? There's a difference between a cash flow market and an equity market. Here in Virginia, I live in an equity market. So an average house is $800,000. And so if you put 20% down on an $800,000 property, of course, over time, it's going to build wealth, and you might be able to make some money after debt service, depending on what's happening with the interest rate. But the moment a hot water heater goes out, you're basically in the negatives from a cash flow perspective. So I wanted to figure out ways to explode my cash flow, at least until I hit my freedom number, and my freedom number was $30,000 a month, because I live in an expensive area. But now my next phase of business, my next phase of growth is I'm now going to take the additional revenue that I have, and I'm going to take that money and reinvest it into some of the equity markets so that I can reap the benefits of different markets, right? And so it's all about strategy and creating the play that's going to fulfill the need. All right. So anyways, I wanted to share that piece with you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe. And if you'd like some assistance, some coaching, some help, we do provide that for anyone wanting to get into the space. Today, I want to show you a deal that one of my students just got done where they were able to 7 to 10x their initial investment. And this is a perfect deal for someone who doesn't have a ton of money saved up, but still wants to make a huge impact and build wealth. So stay tuned to the whole episode here. This is going to be impactful for you. So here we go. I'm going to draw on my whiteboard and just break down and explain one of these little deals. I call these deals, they're called slow flips. It's where you realize your profit over time and it's purely passive. So let me show you guys how this all went down. All right. So as many of you know, I own some little mobile home parks. Okay. And this is a mobile home park that I'm rehabbing right now. Now, where do my students come in and where do the investors in my relationships come in? So I had a friend of mine, and I'm not going to say any names, just to keep their information safe. But I had a friend of mine who said, Umair, I've got money just sitting around, not really doing much in what we call a self-directed retirement account that he had set up because he didn't want the risk of the stock market crashing. And so he wanted to take control and start investing some of his own money. And if you want to learn more about self-directing and creating your own retirement accounts, plug into more videos in my channel. So anyways, he had $40,000 to play with, right? $40,000 to play with. So what we did is we went out and I provided a turnkey solution to him. And everyone's winning with this deal. So we bought this property, early or late 1999 mobile home. All right, bought this mobile home. And I bought the mobile home. I fixed it up. I found the renters. Everything was done. And we got everything done. My friend invested $37,000 to take advantage of this deal, right? So 37 grand. Now, what we do and what we teach and what we share other people how to do to make completely passive income with little to no risk is he had $37,000 to play with. All right. I did everything from finding the deal, getting the permits, moving it to my park. Everything was done. All he had to do is invest the money, right? So bought the property for $37,000. Once we got done fixing it up, just doing basic stuff to it to make it livable, we then went out on a journey to find the right tenant buyer. Notice I didn't just say tenant. We like tenant buyers. And what we did is we bought this property, we moved it to my lot. My friend, let's draw this little stick figure here. My friend invested the 37K, right? That's his money there. He wants to make a good return on it. So I did all of the work. He invested the capital. And then we went out and we found a tenant buyer. Tenant buyer. Okay. And we qualify the buyers and make sure that they're going to be a good fit and that they're going to, because eventually the tenant buyers want to have ownership of this mobile home. And so what I do with the tenant buyer is we do what we call a lease with an option to buy, a lease option, essentially. And I know you guys have heard of lease options, hopefully, if you're in the real estate business. So we did a lease, so we did a rental agreement, and we also signed a different agreement and gave the buyer the option to purchase the property for a set price at a later date. Now, the way we teach to structure this is we take whatever they give as the option is essentially like the down payment for owning the home. But these options, when they're done right, are structured to where they are non-refundable, right? And they have like a timeline to actually exercise the option. So what I did is I had the tenant buyer give a $3,000 non-refundable option. So $3,000. So where does that $3,000 go? Well, it goes right back to my friend who was wanting to make a good return on his money. So instead of being all in on his investment for 3,000, now my friend is into this deal for just $34,000, right? So we got some return back already. So now he's in the deal. He's all in for a little bit less. Now, what the tenant buyer's plan is they're going to be fixing up the property because we do bare bones, right? Like not bare bones, but we do enough to make it livable. And we tell the tenant buyer this: if you do repairs and keep your receipts and make this your home, make it beautiful, make it the way you want, we will be willing to take some of that money that you invest into your home and subtract it against the purchase price that we create. Now, this is the best part. This is how money works. And when you start understanding this, you can create enough income to at least replace like the income from a job. Okay. And you can do this in small increments or you can do it all at once. So investor's in for 34 grand, right? He's still in for this. We have a tenant buyer that we charged an option for. It's their option to purchase this mobile home for a set price at a later date. Now, who creates the price? Who creates the terms? Who creates the interest rate? Well, what we do is we teach our investors, and I do this myself on multiple houses and mobile homes now, is we had the tenant buyer agree that if we finance the mobile home to them, because many times people don't have great credit. We're not taught about credit in school these days. And sometimes people don't really understand how the credit system works. And so what we're able to do is we can create the purchase price and the terms. So this same home, and I'm going to show you guys pictures momentarily on this deal, the same property we resold or we will resell on a form of seller financing, right? And there's lots of different ways to do seller financing. If you want to learn more, I can show you the different ins and outs of structuring your own, being the bank basically. So you get to be the bank and earn nothing but passive income. So this investor's all in for 34 grand. We charge a $3,000 option, which goes back to the investor. That could be you. And so we ended up getting an agreement to sell this mobile home for 89,900. Now, instead of having to use a bank, what we teach people is that they can actually be the bank. So we're now teaching my friend how he is going to finance this property to the tenant buyer for 89,900. So effectively, what is that, guys? Do the math real quick. That is $59,900 of profit without having to do much work, right? Because 89.9 minus what the investor is all in for, which is the $34,000, is about 59.9, right? But this is the best part. The 89.9 is what investors would call the face value of the mortgage or the note or whatever you want to say, right? That's the face value. Because you and I both know when you go and buy a house from a bank, that property is typically what we call amortized, right? Amortized. And so you pay principal and interest month after month after month until it's completely paid off. So we could do a 10-year loan, we could do a 20-year loan, you could do a 30-year loan. Now, if we amortize this property over 30 years, and I can show you guys on a mortgage calculator, this investor here, this guy who's all in on this deal for just 34 grand, over time is going to make over $250,000 without dealing with tenants, toilets, and termites. Because, guys, the tenant buyer is wanting to own the piece of property. So the value is not always in ownership. As an investor, the value is in control. And over time, as I grew in this business and I started learning the ins and outs of finance and structuring deals, I realized that I can help people own properties because that's what we're conditioned to do in America, but I can make a great amount of income by passively being the bank. Now, guys, this is an example of a slow flip, and I hope I didn't go too fast, but I wanted to give you an overview of one of the many ways that you can build cash flow and create long-term wealth with the game of real estate investing. And I really want you guys to try to understand this whole thing. Just, and many people have heard this, but they don't really understand it. Have you ever heard this quote? Those who understand interest earn it, and those who don't typically give it away. And what I recommend for investors is really tune in to what works. The banks are some of the richest people on the planet, so why not join in what they have learned? America, anything's possible, right? So just by buying right and understanding finance with a stroke of a signature, by understanding conversations and contracts, you can build wealth, you can make passive income, and really live a life by design. My friends, thank you for watching this quick training. If you would like to connect, if you want to learn more about business, entrepreneurship, real estate investing, how to make double, triple, and quadruple returns on your money, then subscribe, like, and enjoy more of the content that I put out. Thanks. Bye.